accumulating the journey. Over a period of time, we have accumulated more than 15,000 well-wishers and customers. And the support that we have received from each one of you has made the journey meaningful and possible for us. We are now close to 150 people strong and with offices all across the country. With Shyam, let me welcome Federal Bank, who became part of our journey about 3 years ago. And Shyam is part of the growth that we have seen in last few years. As mentioned by Amina, we are probably the only millennial investment bank and a little bit naughty teenager, if I may add. As the naughty teenager, we have got a panel which is most impactful in the current situation. And as we started sending invites of the panel to the people, we realized that Zomato actually moved their IPO from Monday to Friday so that they don't have impact of this panel on their IPO. With that background, I guess let me introduce the panelists today, Mr. Jhunjhunwala and Mr. Pai. Of course, both these people need no introduction. Well known to everyone in the audience as well as probably the world. But Mr. Jhunjhunwala was partially responsible for birth of Equirus, and he helped us start Equirus when it started in 2007, and always has been a mentor, well-wisher, and a go-to person for all of us. His inputs have shaped our thinking. His inputs have shaped our thinking of client first, making sure that we offer the right services to our clients. So we owe it to Mr. Jhunjhunwala for the entire journey that has happened till now. Mr. Pai, as all of us are well aware, he is just an inspiration for all the millennials today. He has been the architect and backer of education and IP-led development in India. And I'm sure his contributions in financial and tech world, which is now coming up as fintech, are only unmatched. I think for a teenager like us, we would love to continue to be inspired and guided by people such as Mr. Jhunjhunwala and Mr. Pai. And we thought that it will be only appropriate to listen to them on our anniversary. With that, of course, there's a lot to talk about both these people, but I'll let them do the talking. And I will hand over back to the panel. Once again to our anniversary.
Thanks so much. Thank you, Mr. Deshmukh. And now what we have all been waiting for, tigers, bulls and bears at the Lal Street. May I now request Mr. Ajay Garg to say a few words and start the panel.
Thanks, Amina, and welcome everyone. Good morning to all of you. I think we have a strength of almost close to 500 people today on the panel, and I look forward to sort of having a stimulating morning with you today. The journey of Equirus has been blessed by all your support in the last 14 years since we have been started this vision, and it's something which we have sort of, feel very proud about the path we have taken and what we have achieved. And we look forward to your continued support going forward. Without further ado, I would like Mohan to sort of share his opening remarks, and then I think I'll ask Mr. Jhunjhunwala to share his opening remarks, and then we'll start off with a bunch of questions which we have compiled as a team, and also will request audience to put their questions in the chat box, which I think we'll pick up and ask the panelists. With this, Mohan, over to you, and look forward to hearing your talks.
Thank you, Ajay. Folks, good to be here. I'm very grateful to be invited to this very, very good program. And my best wishes to Equirus. And, you are a teenager. We are slightly above a teenage group. We are in the mid-20s, both, Rakesh and I, even though Rakesh is younger than me, I guess. And it's good to be with Rakesh because Rakesh has been the great India bull. Every time anybody in India feels a bit down, they must just switch on and watch Rakesh talking about how India is going to do. And India is going to do very well. And let me start my comments by just making an opening remark. We are in the biggest inflection point for the last 250 years. 250 years ago, a great event took place. That is the Industrial Revolution, which changed the world. Till then, China, India were the largest economies in the world, primarily because they had large population. They were old civilizations. Then the age of machines came, driven by capital from trade by Europe with Asia. And that money started the Industrial Revolution. In 100 years, 1800 to 1900, the world changed. Europe became the dominant power, and both India and China came down. And the change was led by machines, because for the first time, machines replaced human labor and animal power in the world for over 5,000–6,000 years. And that is a very seminal change. And the world we live in today is the world of the Industrial Revolution, where you have machines working, producing, and a global supply chain connecting producers and consumers around the world. And the people who control the global supply chain, which consists of transportation, shipping, pipelines, warehouses, retail, wholesale, financial services, right up to the customer side, is making money. And that's the world that we understand today, driven by energy, driven by automobiles, and driven by other kind of industries like steel, materials, etc. Now, this world is undergoing a tremendous disruption due to the rise of the internet. Now, what the internet has done is created a new model for the first time in 200 years. And what is the new model? The new model is a global platform where everybody is connected together. The world has 7.8 billion people. 6 billion people have a mobile phone. 5 billion people are on the internet. 4.5 billion people are on social media. So we're on the same platform. We can talk to each other. We can communicate to each other. We can sell to each other. We can have entertainment. We can do banking. We can get education anywhere in the world. And we're all connected by a cheap mobile device with almost unlimited bandwidth. And in India, you can get unlimited bandwidth because of Jio for 100 rupees a month, which everybody can afford. So the world has changed. And this platform is creating new business models, the like of which we're not seen, and disrupting the way that we are living. And that is giving rise to new industries in an extremely big way. Let me give you a few examples. The auto industry has a revenue of $2 trillion. 90 million four-wheelers are made around the world. And an auto engine, an IC engine has 2,000 moving parts. This is getting disrupted by the electric vehicle industry. Today, Tesla is the most valuable auto company, even though they're fledgling, make maybe 1 million cars a year out of 90 million. 90 million the world does. And this year, we'll have 3 to 4 million cars being sold. And Germany has announced they're going to push out the IC engine cars by 2030. So by 2030, 30 to 35% of all autos will be electric vehicles. An electric vehicle engine has only 20 moving parts as against 2,000 moving parts for an IC engine. When the auto industry changes, when we have autonomous cars, when cars go by themselves, we are going to see a rapid transformation and disruption. And that's why Tesla is so valuable. And we can see this happening in the energy industry. UK has not used coal for its energy for the last 2 years. 30% of energy in Germany is alternate energy. In the world, 10% of energy is alternate energy. Solar energy is cheaper than coal or nuclear, any other energy today, even in India. And by 2030, 30 to 35% of the world's energy will be through alternate energy, either through wind or through solar. So the energy industry is changing. And what about the impact on the oil industry? Oil was a $6.5 trillion industry, became a $4 trillion because of the shale gas and oil in the United States. And oil has peaked at 100 million barrels a day, consumption per day. It has come down now, but we have seen peak oil. And if oil comes down, that entire 4.5 trillion industry is going to be impacted because 60% of oil consumption is by auto. And if the auto industry comes down because they go electric, we're going to see a change world. So today it's possible to have a solar panel on your roof, get the solar energy, put it into your panel, battery panel in your house, plug your car in and drive 300 miles a day for almost no cost. And if the car is autonomous, what happens to insurance? What happens to repairs? Because the EV goes for 500,000 kilometers and we need lesser cars. 10% of real estate in the United States today is used for parking. And this is a kind of disruption seeing in two industries. Look at the financial service industry. Just 2 days back, an IPO happened in Korea, and that IPO for the Korea's first digital bank got $2 trillion. $2 trillion for a small IPO. This is incredible. And why is that happening? Because banking is gone to the mobile. There are fintech companies coming, connecting consumers who are borrowers to lenders, and they're reducing the cost. The intermediation cost is coming down. In your broking industry, who are the largest brokers? Is Zerodha started by two young boys 10 years ago in Bangalore, which nobody has heard of. And if you look at the discount broking industry, it has become mainstream today. And we're seeing disruption in lending, we're seeing disruption in investment, we're seeing the largest flow of capital go to exchange-traded funds, we are seeing dark pools of capital coming, we're seeing carbon trading come up, a whole new industry coming, and capital is going there. And the last point I want to talk about disruption is the disruptive capital that is coming. The central banks have a balance sheet of $25 trillion. About $20 trillion of stimulus has been printed. Out of the $40 trillion of government bonds in the OECD, 20 trillion have got negative rates. For the first time in the US, junk bond rates have come below inflation rates, may not go up. And now the fixed income market in the US has been almost destroyed because the yields are just not there. Everybody is borrowing very, very cheap. Pension funds have to invest in equity. Pension funds have to invest in alternate capital. And this huge flush of disruptive capital is leading to a change that we're not seeing. After COVID, we saw Apple go to $2 trillion, Microsoft go to $2 trillion. We saw the rise of Netflix, rise of Tesla. We saw the rise of Facebook. We saw the rise of Twitter. In the top 10 companies in the world, 9 are digital companies. I think Berkshire Hathaway is the only company which is non-digital, but 9 are digital companies, according to my information. And there is a message that is coming out to us. Digital disruption is here. Value is being created here. In the US, I just finished again in 5 minutes. I'll just introduce. In the US, we have $135 billion coming into venture. China has got $65 billion. Now, what about India? Look at the data in India. India has 1.38 billion people, 1.2 billion on Aadhaar, 1 billion bank accounts, and 1.2 billion mobile connections, 900 million unique phones. And we're seeing this kind of a tech disruption come up in India. In India, for example, in the startup industry, we've got 55,000 startups today, 58 unicorns, 18 come up this year. We got $70 billion of capital from 2014 till 2020 December. This year, for the half year, we already got 10 billion. We may get another 10 billion, 20 billion coming in this year. We may get another 8 unicorns. And they employ 1.2 billion people. They got revenues up to maybe $50 billion. And if you look at 2025, India will have 100,000 startups. We'll have 150 unicorns in this country. And they would have created value of $1 trillion. Right now, they got a value of $350 billion. We'll get maybe $150, $200 million of capital coming in from now till 2025. And they'll employ 3.5 million people. And why is the disruption happening? Because India is growing and these companies are disrupting. Now, if you look at the capital markets in India today, I just look at data. The top 5 tech services companies, TCS, Infy, Wipro, HCL, have got a market value of $350 billion. And the others have got something like $50 billion, $400 billion out of maybe, the value of $3 trillion in the market is in tech services. When Zomato and others come, probably by 2025, between tech services and startup, they will create $1 trillion of market value. And that's the kind of money that's coming in. That's the kind of innovation that's happening, the kind of growth that's happening in this country in a tremendous way. In 2019, the world spent $2 trillion on digitization. By 2025, the world will spend $5 trillion a year on digitization. And the biggest CapEx expenditure in the world is in the digital world, in IT and technology. So we're going to see robots come and take over our work. We're going to see autonomous car. We're going to see 3D printing. We're going to see manufacturing, which is automated. We're going to see a digital world together. We're going to see e-commerce, come and dominate. All this is going to happen before our eyes. And India is positioned because we got Geo, which has given us the power of connectivity at a very low cost and a device which can connect every human being. And come to Bangalore and meet people here, you'll see a different world. Every time I go to Delhi, I get very depressed because Delhi is a very different country. Come to Bangalore, meet these young people. You see the dream in their eyes, the dream that Rakesh always speaks about when he talks about the future of this country. Rakesh is the biggest spokesperson for the tech world, for innovation, for young entrepreneurship, for the future of India. I want to rest my case here.
Thanks, Mohan. That's a pretty lot of data and a lot of perspective in a very short conversation. I guess I will ask Mr. Jhunjhunwala to sort of share his opening remarks.
People call me various. Thank you for inviting me, and my heartfelt congratulations to Equirus. My personal judgment of Equirus is that now they're in their teens, and actually they are in their teens. The fast growth, and I am confident that Equirus will now come to the second stage of evolution. Now, people call me various names. Sometimes they call me Big Bull, which is like Harshad Mehta. And sometimes they call me Warren Buffett. I don't know what I am. But I am what I am. Right? And see, I would like to look at things in a very broad way. Why am I bullish in India? See, I'm a patriotic Indian, but I don't mix my patriotism with my realism in business. The fact is that if you look at societies worldwide who have achieved prosperity and retained periods of time, they carry two very, very common things. They are skilled and hardworking people, and they have a democracy. Africa, the countries, the richest country in Africa is Botswana. Why? Because Botswana is the only African country which has always had democracy after independence. There has been no coup, there has been nothing. So democracy brings civility. Right? I think India, the skills, for what it took the Americans, NASA, $1 billion, we sent the vehicle to Mars in $100 million. We made the nuclear bomb. We did not sell it to anybody. We did not steal the technology. We have, $200 billion of software exports. So there is no question. We are some of the finest doctors in the world. I took advice on whether I had some problem health, that I should go to America. They said I booked my tickets for Boston. For whatever reason, it got delayed. An Indian doctor, they suggested they may have to ampute my leg. The American doctors, and he cured it. An Indian doctor from Chennai. Right? So skills are in abundance in India. And we are a true democracy, whatever people may say. And I hate this journalist community. Just because they don't like the present government, everything they do is just to criticize. You tell me one thing, the Karnataka speaker decided that the vote of confidence will be taken in 25 days. The Supreme Court said it should be taken in 5 days. Was it taken or not? So there is no question, we are true democracy. And our press is too vibrant. And there is not a lot of civil activism that this democracy can be destroyed. Then entrepreneurship. Despite Nehru's twist with socialism, Indian entrepreneurship is unbelievable. Every society has its biggest growth in its most favorable demographic time. That was the reason, America, what was the baby boomers years in America? There was a demographic favor. Right? And everything in India is tops up, nothing is bottoms up, nothing is tops up. So change in India is far more consistent and it lasts if it takes place. Right? Sixth thing is that, India biologically evolves. And that which evolves, we have to understand that growth is a process. And if we biologically evolve, right, it is permanent. Then India has got 30-35% of GDP to savings. Imagine if you are if you become a $5 trillion democracy, you will be saving $1.75 trillion a year in India. What are you looking at American capital? The foreigners are selling for the last 10 days, but Indian markets are going up. So we have all the ingredients of growth. Then, I call Modi ji a distant socialist. Who is a distant socialist? Socialist fights for a larger part of the cake. Modi ji is also, he's very social, he's socialistic thinking, but he's ready to do everything to enhance the size of the cake. Second thing is that, what is Modi ji's motive in life? I think he wants to be known as India's greatest leader ever. And he understands that just by advancing or achieving the social agenda of the BJP, he will not be that leader. Right? And he has to make an economic revolution. That is his motive from day one. For that, he knows what policies are needed. Right? And there have been so many changes in India and good for the poor. I mean, you have Jan Dhan, my servant has a bank account, may help. Earlier, used to remit 10,000, he used to pay 300 rupees, now he remits in 3 rupees. He remits the money in half an hour, his wife takes it. I could get a US visa for him because he had a bank account and he had Aadhaar card. Right? You know what does Nal Se Jal means? 40% of all diseases in India are waterborne. If you have clean water in your house, the kind of gain we'll do economically is unbelievable. And it's justice, no? They say the poor don't benefit. No, I cannot bear to be without my children for 5 days. My help used to work 11 months for me and 1 month with his children. Now I see in the night he's video conferencing with his children and his wife. Has he not benefited? So I think, and we had so many changes, RERA, GST, right? Then, for demonetization, in my opinion, did not play what it was done for. And so many reforms. So now I think that what Mr. Pai said is the inflection time has come. And I don't know, people say, you look at the American markets, was American profits to GDP at 9%. Indian profits to GDP last year 3%. Then you have a reformed corporate sector. 15 years ago, we went to Delhi, people in the evening used to have a drink. अरे DLF वाले का कितना स्विस बैंक अकाउंट है, एस्कॉर्ट्स वाले का ज्यादा है कि उसका ज्यादा है? अभी सब बोलते हैं किसका मार्केट कैप ज्यादा है। और पहले कॉर्पोरेट सेक्टर का एटीट्यूड क्या था, कर लेंगे, करा लेंगे, ट्रांसफर कर लेंगे, जो करना है कर लो। अभी कुछ होता नहीं है। पहले कंपनीज बैंकरप्ट होती थी, एंटरप्रेन्योर ही बैंकरप्ट होते थे। अब कंपनी और एंटरप्रेन्योर दोनों बैंकरप्ट होते हैं। And we have the lowest level of debt to GDP, of corporate debt. And we have a totally well-provided, banking sector. I know Sham is not here, he will be better testify that. And second thing is that, nowhere in the world does a credit cycle occur. At least there's a 10-year phase before the end of one cycle and the beginning of the second. Right? And also, so all these factors, I think, have brought India to an inflection point. And people forget that in 1980 to 1990, the Dow did nothing. The Nikkei went from 4,000 to 40,000. अरे तो जो अंग्रेजों का होगा यार, हमको क्या लेना देना? हम 10% ग्रोथ करेंगे ना? हमारे पास $1.75 trillion saving है ना? We have set up the infrastructure to channelize that saving. Right? So that's why what makes me very bullish, and I reserve the right to be wrong. I predict this year we'll have double-digit growth. Then we'll start at 7.5 and go to 10 in 3 years. We've not had a capital investment for the last, no real private sector investment in the last 7-8 years. So that's why I remain a bull. I have the highest level of leverage in my life. And I was lucky to get very, very bearish, very, very bullish in June 2020. At that time, you could do Ina, Mina, Mina, Mo, buy any share, it's double today. As far as, you could do it by Ina, Mina, Mina, Mo. But the valuation was such, could you believe? Telco sales were 3 lakh crores. They turned around the car division. Every guidance they had given in JLR was exceeded. And the market cap was 30,000 crores. Chori ka maal hai. And you had the House of Tata's boss, if needed, they could invest 20,000 crores more. As far as what Mr. Pai said, Sushmita Sen won the Miss World contest ahead of Ashra Rai because she said, they asked her, what about change? She said, change is the only constant. And I think the modern world after the Industrial Revolution is the ability to recognize change, accept it, prepare for it, and benefit from it. But I have learned two lessons. The first lesson in life is what I buy is very, very important. And what price I buy is most important. Right? So अभी ये टेस्ला का वैल्यूएशन होगा कि जोमेटो का होगा. Good luck to Zomato. Let his valuation be 9,90,000 crores and let Tesla be 6 trillion. But I am not going to buy these stocks at these valuations. Right? And second thing is we always overrate change, especially these techies. Change comes but much slower than anticipated pace. Right? And I feel that India will be one of the biggest. What I love about the startups and what I've learned in my, and by the way, 1/3 of my wealth is unlisted equity. Right? So I have also invested in 14 different companies. I'm now promoting a new airline. I love it when people say, you want to be a millionaire, that's why I'm making an airline. I like that kind of attitude when I do something. I want to, right? So, what I feel is the kind of pace and the kind of speed and the kind of devotion they work with is unbelievable. My friend Bhaskar Bhatt says, and Harish Bhatt, they spend at least 2-3 hours a week with employees who are between 20 and 30. Right? But what I feel is that without so much focus on valuation, I believe to be a great company, what we need is an opportunity, frugality, corporate governance, technology, the ability to change. And if the race is not ending tomorrow, I have learned it's always the tortoise who wins rather than the hare. So I wish these startups give more focus to building a business model which produces cash. Rather than, taking father-in-law's money and laga 1 billion, 2 trillion. That is it's not capital which has built great companies in the world. Who built Zara? Who built Walmart? Right? So its capital is not so important ultimately. It's your business model. And I don't like companies I tell all my investing companies, I am not interested in valuation. I am interested in my business and scalability. I am making a business model, a cash flow model, and the valuations have to follow. Valuations cannot, be more important than my business model and its sustainability. And I think people are being far, far, far too optimistic about how fast these companies will produce cash. But the kind of money, all these entrepreneurs, money is like oxygen. If they need 4, you give them 3, they'll die. You give them 6, their dreams will go up 5,000 times. Right? And just because some have succeeded doesn't mean everybody is going to succeed. So my attitude is they are contributing greatly to this country, to this world. I admire and love the pace and the efficiency with which they do things. But they are being misguided by the focus on valuations. And the focus of all these valuations are because of kind of money some of these investors have made in Chinese and other companies. And this is going to be madness. These are railroads. This is like the tulip boom. In my opinion, I have the right to be wrong. And I don't have to go to every party in town here. I said, I don't want to come to that party. मैं बोला hangover होता है ना वो next day आता है. फिर मालूम. These are my observations. My own plea in life is I think of doing it is I want to make a documentary. I want to write an article of why we Indians should believe in India. In fact, I've discussed it with my friend Balki. I say, believe in India, my fellow Indians, and prosper. I have analyzed that Indians don't like because, one, we, They feel things can be far better. The civic services, the rate of growth. Second thing is I define corruption between extractive and collaborative. Extractive is I won't give you a ration card, give me money. I won't give you permission for your building, give me money. Needlessly, even if I follow the rules. That's extractive collaboration. Collaborative collaboration is Rakesh Jhunjhunwala steals on his taxes and pays the ITO. Cash. This is nothing but collaborative corruption. And we have an elitist class, I would say, for my own children. You know, if I take my children to London and Dubai, they say, Daddy, yahi kyun nahi reh jate? So they are never exposed to difficulty in life. They have never been exposed to, you know, we have not been able to give them a proper sense of patriotism and belief in our country. I thought, decide in my life, I can save taxes by living in Dubai and London. I'll never do it. But I don't want to leave my country. Yeah? And we are going to see that the dream of my life is this American standing outside the US Indian consulate in New York for visas. And believe me, one day that time will come. So what else can I say?
Very good, Rakesh.
And you know,
That's
this inflation is all crap. The people who have really printed the money per capita in the world are the Japanese.
Yeah.
Europeans. वहाँ तो inflation ही नहीं आता है. America में क्या inflation आएगा? So I asked Raghuram Rajan. I don't know what an Indian critic is. I don't know what he says. Right? He says, no. It's linked to, what they're coming to the idea is, it is linked to demographics. See, the two most economic events of the last 100 years, according to me, is nobody anticipated that with this kind of money printing, inflation will not come. It's a reality. Japan mein to aata hi nahi hai. So in my opinion, it's demographics and it's technology. And second thing which is very important is aging. Nobody anticipated that aging in the world now, according to retirement, it cannot be less than 65. I'm 62 now, you think I should retire at this age? So retirement should be between 65 and 70. And there are so many other effects of aging. And all the climate and, activists, of which I am also now one. One thing is, beyond 2040, 45, world population will shrink. 2.05 is a replacement level for population. Which woman in India wants to have more than one child? So worldwide, see, these are very big changes, right? And I also feel there is going to be a big movement towards environmental control, unbelievable movement. Because क्या कि सब बड़े लोगों के घर में flood आ गया ना, बड़े लोगों में forest fire आ गया. It's like the White House getting floods. And politically, people have become so conscious now that politicians will be forced to do this regardless of cost, which is very good news. Anyway, I can go on and on. Thanks. सीखा नहीं कभी.
Thank you, Bhaiya. I think that was a pretty good opening remarks. I'll ask Donald to ask the first question. Donald, can you take your first question?
Sure. Thank you very much. Thanks, Mr. Jhunjhunwala, and thanks, Mr. Pai. Would start with the first question. Buffett once famously said, "I don't invest in technology companies because I don't understand technology." And recently, we've been seeing that Apple was one of his top holdings. So the question really is twofold. Is Apple now being considered more of a consumer company and less of a technology company? And the second part of the question is really in the Indian context, how do you, both of you, see our portfolio managers aligning to this orientation towards new age companies?
See, I'll give you very simply. I will never say never again in the stock market. Right? And I've learned one thing, like the more you approach things with an open mind, the better investor you are. Because the world is about change, things change, circumstances change. I will never say, I also don't understand technology. Every time my son teases me once a day, "Aapko itna bhi phone mein karna nahi aata hai?" Right? Second thing, see, when I invest, I think if there is opportunity for a company, there is going to be profitability, there is cash flow, the valuation is good. Why what Indian fund managers go? I'm not concerned. Let them do what they want. अपन ने सुंदर लड़की पैदा की है या तो शादी करने वाला आएगा. कब आएगा, क्यों आएगा? I never see shareholder lists. I'd never bother to buy and sell. Right? So I'm not bothered. Indian fund managers, they do. I can tell you one thing. The biggest mug game in the world is the mutual fund industry. So they keep looking at each other's NAVs. They're bigger speculators than I am, right? And you know the real difference between all the 80% of the active managers don't beat the index. So why bother what they will say? But market में share बाजार में एक चीज है सर, देर है अंधेर नहीं. मैं 100 रुपए में लोग को बोलता था टाइटन ले लो, आज उसका इफेक्टिव प्राइस 18,000 है, राइट? लेकिन 100 का जब 1000 हुआ तो बहुत लोग हैं. क्या है, फिर लोग को लगता है कुछ है. I don't never again, and I don't bother what fund managers think and foreign investors think. एक दो आते हैं foreign managers, they think that their shit doesn't stink. I told them, you have come to my office at your request. You don't want to invest, go back to London, go back to Connecticut. We are not bothered.
Sure. Mr. Pai, your views?
I tell you a very good story about London. The Bhartiya Group has 3 listed companies: Jubilant Foodworks, Jubilant Pharmava, and Jubilant Ingredient. Jubilant Foodworks ka P is 80. The other 2's P's are 15, 12. You see why this difference here? Okay, I mean 80 or 12, I think 80 or 20, 25 may be fair. नहीं, ये promoter चोर है. मैं बोला Jubilant Foodworks का promoter चोर नहीं है. When you reason out to me, same promoter of 3 companies, 2 brothers, same chairman, right? And this is a very difference in valuation. But hey, bhai, they have the pen. कभी नहीं चलता है, फिर चलेगा. Anyway.
Mr. Pai?
Yeah, you know, if you look at Apple today, where is the largest profitability coming from? The Apple Store, right? Everything is being sold on the Apple Store, Apple subscription, and that is going straight to the bottom line. I think they make $80 billion a year, and they're worth $2 trillion. And now they created an Apple ecosystem of 2 billion phones. So you got your own network, you got your own ecosystem, you dominate the ecosystem, everything is going through the ecosystem, you control the consumption in the ecosystem, and it's become a very different company. You could call it a consumer company, you could call it tech company, but I would call it the ecosystem, tech ecosystem company. And if we have, 2 billion people who are your consumers, who you access to every single moment, and you can do many things, you are in a different world. And I think that's why it is so valuable. And, to me, the important thing is it is mature. I still remember when Apple went public, it was $1 billion. And you know the story of what happened to Apple. And you'll be happy that part of the Apple Store was written by Infosys in Bangalore. From 1994, Infi worked for Apple and wrote all the great software for a large part of what they do, and everything else, Infi still works on them. So I think, that's my opinion by Apple. And as far as Buffett saying, Buffett has got his investment philosophy on certain principle and he's been extremely successful. Success is a reality in life. So we praise him. That's very good. I mean, he didn't understand technology. He kept away. Now the world is shifted to technology. You're probably having a look. He bought IBM. I think it's a big disaster. IBM went nowhere because IBM is not the IBM of 30 years ago. It's become a legacy now. But whatever it is, that's the situation. Now, as far as fund managers, so let me tell you, I'm extremely disappointed about Bombay in India. Out of $70 billion that came in, only 10% is Indian capital. All the unicorns have got majority holding by foreign capital. India is well on the way to becoming a digital colony because when we have 150 unicorns, they will be mostly held by foreign capital because Indian capital is not going there. And Bombay is out of tune with the new reality of India about what is happening in the digital world. All the fund managers at Bombay are doing what they were doing 20 years ago and they're doing very well. I have no quarrel with that. But you got to invest in the new economy. You got to foster that. Luckily, there are 650 AIFs where money is coming in, but that too, the money is not Indian. It's overseas money. Enough Indian money is not coming in. And if now to 2025, we get $150, $200 billion into technology, then how much money is going to be Indian capital? Maybe 25 million? Is that enough? What is the point of building a great digital economy in this country where everything is owned by foreign capital? Luckily, the listing in India, because the Indian markets are buoyant, there are enough Indians. Out of 58 unicorns, 58 unicorns in India, maybe 30 or 26 or 30 are domiciled outside India, like Flipkart. It's an MNC, it's not an Indian company. They're all domiciled outside because they were all led to believe by bankers in Bombay that, you can't get capital in India. So my view is Mumbai, they're not in this new economy. A new set of managers are coming in. They're in this economy, but they're not getting access to Indian capital. Look at LIC, 35 lakh crore balance sheet. Total life insurance is 50 lakh crore balance sheet. How much money they put here? Zero. LIC has some 1,500 crores in some old funds, not in technology. And you look at the Canadian pension fund, they come and put $10 billion into India, $2.5 billion into technology, and they're taking the currency risk, they're taking the so-called India risk, they're coming here, they're investing in risk, they're investing in venture and making money, they're happy, and our LIC sits down there, and you know what they do, because all of you know what they do, right? So to me, it's personally extremely disappointing. That's why I want to ask Rakesh to be our mascot, to start investing in technology and to lead the way. Yes, come in seed, come in growth. You don't have to invest at $10 billion, but you have to have your foot here, Rakesh. You should make sure as the India bull and the mascot for India and the capital market. I finished. 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. Give me 1 minute. You should lead. You should put your money, your little bit of money. You should be the face of the Indian investment community in the new world. And you should stand and say, you will create an India where digital India will be owned by Indians.
मेरे को उस सब में इंटरेस्ट नहीं है. अपने को ले फटाफट दे फटाफट अपना इन्वेस्टमेंट करो, लीडरशिप करने का नहीं है. आप समझे ना? No, but I want to make one prediction. Which has been the two biggest antitrust breakups in America. One was the
AT&T. First was AT&T. Standard Oil.
Bigger than that was Standard Oil.
Yeah.
So मेरे को personally लगता है the dominance today. Apple is charging 30 to 40% for a person who is buying a product on an Apple phone, and with great dominance. I have a prediction in the next 10 years, these companies will all be split up, and a lot of antitrust rules will come. It's already being felt in society.
Yeah.
And the democracy, once public opinion comes in favor of certain actions, the politicians cannot resist it. So I personally feel the domination, they are all great companies. I mean, I have not seen a man who has more customer centricity than Jeff Bezos. What I've read of him, and not that I know him. So I have a prediction that there will be a lot of antitrust action against all these companies.
Sure.
And as far as देखो अपने को डरना नहीं चाहिए, बड़े ओनरशिप उनकी है, लोकेशन तो इंडिया है ना. चाइना ने किया ना 2 मिनट में, क्या किया उन्होंने? Any private equity fellow says no, he might do. I've done we bought Star Health along with Westbridge Capital. मैं बोला जो लिखना है लिखे, साइन करना है यार, तू मेरे देश में है ना, लिखता हूँ क्या करते करते. So boss, if they get the money, allow. But I think if I was to decide, I would have followed the Chinese policy in not allowing Apple into India, but creating Indian apples. I think that's a very good policy. That's how their companies could get this size so fast. I think that's where we should have, but that time is gone now.
That time is gone.
Sure, sure. No, I think, Mr. Pai, you made a very, very interesting point about the recent listings that are happening. And Zomato is a classic one which got listed yesterday. The last time around, when the .com boom happened, we saw very little listings happening.
Merchant banker तो बहुत खुश है ना, वो तो पार्टी के होस्ट हैं, तुम जितना दारू पिएंगे उतना बिल देने वाले हैं.
So things have changed now. Companies, the larger unicorns, are tending to get listed in India, which is very different from the trend that happened the last time around. And there is this initial hesitancy, and then a bit of, shall we say, follow-on buying, and then there is huge conviction. What happened even in Amazon and Google overseas? Do you think this is going to happen in a country like India now, or this is just a one-off? Few listings?
No, I don't think there's a one-off. There are 15 IPOs lined up. Maybe 4 or 6 you go for IPOs this year. But the big issue which we must understand is a new new group of investors are coming into India. They're the big tech funds who are coming into India. These are not the Capital and Fidelity and all of them coming into India. A new set of investors coming in India. For example, we gave the first check to Baiju, 9 million and 20 million pre in 2012 from Arian Capital. We gave the first check. If we had kept that holding, we had 30% there. It'll be worth $1.5 billion. We sold a little bit. We couldn't put more money because we had not enough capital. And Baiju is today worth 16 billion. And a company called Owl put money into Baiju at 5 billion about 2 years ago. I met them in the US. And now, those kind of investors who got huge amount of money because of this liquidity surge. The world is surplusing capital in the United States because of all this money printing. They're coming in. So a new category of investors are coming in. The sovereign funds are coming in. The fixed income allocation has come down in the United States. They've got the largest pool of capital.
But I would like
you're going to see more and more of these companies come forth, driven by capital.
No, but Mr. Pai, I would like to say something here.
Rakesh, call me Mohan Rakesh. I'm not that elder to you.
India's top 25 performing companies, right?
Yeah.
Maybe Pidilite, maybe Asian Paint, maybe Nestle, maybe Titan, right? Which have given return over generations, at least 2 generations. See, they're all valued between 30 and 35% cash flow.
I will explain this.
They are not valued on the basis of the earnings. They're valued on the basis of cash flow. The P may be 80, but the ratio of cash flow is always 3.5 times. Now, please hear me out for 2 minutes. And you can't believe the return is given. I mean, 1,000 rupees put in Nestle in 1987 will be 10 lakhs today. Right? So now the question is, today you value Zomato at 1 lakh crores. Now, when is Zomato going to get 3,000 crores of cash flow? I want to know that. And not investor checks. And history, right from the boom in the railroads and those tulips, all these valuations have happened, but they never sustained. Never remember it. Always remember the stock market. It's important how long it gets. It's more important how long it lasts. So this emphasis on the tech, I'm telling you, I admire them what they do. This emphasis on the tech world of valuation cannot last. You want a piece of stamp paper? I can tell you 2 years, 3 years, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. जब घटेगा ना तो पिताजी भी मिलने वाले नहीं हैं. This is, and the biggest bloody badmash in this is that Softbank character. So I personally feel that, fair enough, maybe the grapes are sad because I didn't participate in Baiju at that valuation. I wish I had. But now this kind of madness and this emphasis on valuation. See, I invested in a KPO. I put 30 crores of rupees in 2009. I have an offer of 4,500 crores for my stake. right? But there is sustained cash flow, no? So the question is, I think the world is giving too much value to change. And what can capital allow you? It can allow you domination, which you already have. Also, what it can allow you is give further discounts. देखो ना, अब मैं आपके घर के बाहर आके चाराने में इडली बेचूंगा तो लोग खाने आएंगे, पर एक दिन तो ₹2.5 में बेचनी पड़ेगी ना. How fast can you last with predatory pricing? So that's my feeling. I reserve the right to be wrong, but I'm personally quite sure I won't be wrong.
Rakesh, I put up a slide. Mohan, can you also see the slide? Because this is a question which Rakesh has also articulated. And I think, when you answer his question, you could take
IRR based on their capital value. वो क्या करेगा कि 12 बिलियन के वैल्यूएशन 16 बिलियन वैल्यूएशन में 100 मिलियन लगाएगा. तो उसमें कंडीशन क्या है? He has priority, liquidity preference. If the company is so, he'll get the money first. वो सब कंडीशन तुमने देखी है क्या? So I don't measure, I measure returns which are sustainable. So remember how long it gets. It's तुम लोग मर्चेंट बैंक का लोग का तो मुंह में पानी आ रहा है ना. उदय को तो 200 करोड़ 100 करोड़ रुपए आ गया ना जोमेटो में. वो तो बोलेंगे हाँ जोमेटो लो डबल लो 5 लाख का मार्केट कैप करो. So I personally feel, I mean there will be great companies. 25 में से इसमें ये लेवल पे भी शायद 4-5 रिटर्न देंगे. समझा ना? बट मेरे लगता है वो 55,000 में 54,000 जाएंगे, 1000 लिस्ट होंगे, उसमें 25 रिटर्न देंगे, वो 950 भी जाएंगे.
Let me add to what Rakesh said. Of course, he's right in a way. Let me add to that. Now, these companies don't have cash flow. I totally agree. But I want to make a point that if you look at these companies, they're growing in 3 years what an ordinary company will grow in 10 years.
Zomato's sale for 2020-21 is lower than 2019-20. What are they growing?
Yeah, it's a bad year. We'll see the first one.
The 10 people who explained to me the best market for them was the COVID, and the turnover was lower. Mathematical science is not an art here.
No. Let me give my view. They are spending money today in marketing, in getting customers at a fast pace compared to what any other company would do. And they got a fixed cost model. Fixed cost model means they spend a lot of money right now to get customers. They got positive contribution, hopefully. And then once they come to a particular size, the entire money goes to their bottom line because the fixed price model using by digital technology enables that. That is the hope. But let me agree with Rakesh on one thing. There could be 100 IPOs in this big boom. Maybe 10 will do extremely well. Maybe 20 will give decent money. Many will fail. And the reason is very simple. We are part of this creative process where you create companies, you destroy companies, and money is made by smart people in creating and destroying the company. For example, in the global,
this is not Baiju at 20 million loss. What is the risk reward ratio? To justify a valuation of 1 lakh crore in Zomato, which is the best valuation of companies you have given return over decades, is 4,000 crores before tax. His turnover is 2,000 crores today. He has to earn 4,000 crores before tax to justify the valuation of Hindustan Liver, Nestle, Pidilite, Asian Paints, Marico. So, this is the kind of money I should make to sustain valuations. अभी 4,000 crore कभी कमाएगा? I hope before I have my grandchildren. My sons are 12.
Okay, we'll wait and see. But I think my view is
I may be wrong. One, but the risk ratios are not enough.
I agree, Rakesh. I agree with you. I'm not justifying any valuation. I'm just talking about the movement.
I'm telling you that owner of Carrot Lane, which is a Titan subsidiary, personal friend of mine. वो क्या बोला? 2 people of his employees have left. They have made a 3-page business plan. They already have commitment of $15 million.
Yeah.
This is a left-down feeling. And maybe all my opinion is because the grapes are sour. I'm not interested in the practice of right? But Mohan, I have seen this happening before.
You've seen it happen many times. That's what I'm saying. There is growth.
अपन क्यों बोलो? मैं बोलूं तुम 10 लाख का बनाओ ना, मार्केट का फिर फ्यूचर में लाओ, हमको मालूम है क्या करने का.
Yeah.
You know, I must tell you, stop delaying you. Have you read the story on a man who broke the Bank of England?
Bank of England. Yeah, Soros.
No, America, Britain and Germany, as a part of precursor to the euro, they set a mechanism that the rate between the Deutschmark and the pound should be 1 to 1.20.
Yeah, EMS.
Right? Now, George Soros said the Germans don't believe in God, but they believe in the Bundesbank.
Yeah.
And he said to have a mechanism of currency valuation, you got to align monetary and fiscal policy. Right? He knew that will never happen. But he did not sell on the day they did the mechanism. He sold 3-4 times, again they marketed against him, he squared up. But when he realized now the time has come, there is 5 billion pounds took the उसने. So share में time से ज़्यादा timing की importance. You realize that Zomato, in my opinion, is at absolutely value. Doesn't mean I go and sell today. It would be better to sell at 40,000 market cap because there's still 40,000 rupees earned, right? Rather than sell it today. So time से ज़्यादा timing की importance है. You understand certain things. You will know if you watch the market closely by price movement, I can tell you whether there is weakness. फिर चढ़ जाने का. The only thing interested in Nazara Technologies is why that boy had raised, of course, I'm very bullish on gaming, and that boy had raised only $5 million in '99. The day I invested, he had $40 million in the bank without ever raising more than $5 million. So I invested in a cash flow business. So, I mean, I always reserve the right to be wrong. And if you are wrong, क्या है? बेच देने का नया गिली नया डालो.
Correct. Then I'll just finish. I'll just finish. I'll give me a minute. I think, you see, one thing we need to understand is people are spending more because of growth. And today, the spending on software and technology is a revenue expenditure, not a capital expenditure. The largest capex in the world today is in technology. There are issues. I'm not justifying anything. I'm just making my point. And look at Infosys, listed at 40 crore valuation in 1993. Not a good listing. You know, Inam helped out, put the last check. Today, there was 660,000 crores, gone up 16,500 times. Infosys gone up 16,500 times from June 1993 till today. And for what Rakesh says, cash flows is a cash machine, earns $2.5 billion a year, and has been throwing out cash ever since. Never, always has been.
But you know what I will say? That sales is vanity.
What is that?
Sales is vanity.
Vanity.
Tell me out.
Look, Rakesh, there is disruption happening, and when disruption happens, disproportionate amount of capital goes to the disruptors. It happened in railroads, it happened in electricity, it happened in telecommunication. Then the industry matures, value comes down, something comes and destructs them, and then the cycle goes on. Where is IBM today? 30 years back, IBM was the top. IBM doesn't exist anywhere in the top 10.
One thing, Mohan, that who are the greatest beneficiaries of the Californian gold boom? The suppliers of implements to the miners. Right?
No, I agree.
So in India, it is the suppliers who make the most money ultimately. So India के लिए तो बल्ले ना 200 billion का software 400 billion किसी ट्रेडिशन करेंगे. We should be very happy. लगाओ 50 billion लगाओ 5 trillion लगाओ. We are going to service you. So we are going to survive. वो उसका Zomato को क्या होएगा भगवान को मालूम. लेकिन Zomato का software supplier को क्या है?
Yeah.
That is our Europe.
So I have one more question on all the topics which was raised, and I think points were covered. And sort of, our ECM team is super busy given the bull market and the IPO market. And one question which keeps coming up when we interact with a lot of companies is what's the right time to do an IPO? And I can just take an example of a sector, Mohan, which you also talked about, telecom. So there was 2 examples of an IPO. One was done by Bharti. A lot of growth was still to be there. And they came in pretty early in the cycle. And obviously they gave a 30-40 bag over the next 5-7 years of their post-listing. An idea, which came at a very mature stage of the business. And obviously the stock didn't do that much better. In your both of your opinion, which is the right time for a company to an IPO when a lot of growth is still there, or when the business is more mature? And I guess because this is a debate which we keep beating with a lot of entrepreneurs, and this keeps coming up. And I thought, maybe getting your experience and thought process would be very helpful.
You want me to start, or Rakesh?
I'll start. See what happens. It depends on requirement of capital. If money is needed to grow the business, you don't have it, then I'm not bothered about what value I do the issue. Because I will do 10% and they will decide the value of 90%. Right? But I think generally that there are stages in the life of a company. So if I don't need capital, I will do, when the first stage is over, the second stage is on. And it's very apparent now that the company is set on top scalability. Because the investors value future prospects very much. And third thing is, history tells me, and you can do research on this, and you must, Ajay, that you look at the most welcomed and the most followed IPOs and what has been a return for the next 20 years. So I would always like कि market को hunger 100 रुपए 150 रुपए का valuation पे है. I want to bring the issue at 120. Because I'm not, first of all, I don't sell in any IPO. And second thing is कि तुम investor को gain करेगा वो और sustain gain करेगा, so then he will like your company. And I don't want to really bring an IPO at 120 and see the value go to 80. All the merchant bankers will promise you the moon and run away the moment it rains. So my thing is depends on capital needs. It depends on the stage when, as an entrepreneur, I am confident that there is scalability to the business. And third, I would like to have it at a reasonable valuation.
My personal philosophy and what we followed in Infosys is very clear. We'll only do an IPO, I would do an IPO when there are at least 8 quarters clear growth with 80-90% probability, 8 quarters, clear growth. Second, we have set the process in place to reduce the risk in the growth so that certainty goes up, PSPD model that Infi did. And the third thing is we need the money for branding, for liquidity, and maybe growth. And the most important thing is, when you do an IPO, you must realize you are in the public markets. You're valued every second when your stock is traded. Everything is transparent. Everything is known to people. You are naked before everybody. And you have no choice. The market decides for you. You don't decide anything. And that's why, like Rakesh said, we have done it. You'll always price an IPO at a price where investors make money. Because you must remember, you may list 20% stock, 25% stock, but others hold 85%, 80%, or 75%. The value of that is important. If you cream the public investors, price very highly, the stock does not do well, the 80 or 75% investors who hold the balance who are not part of the IPO, they suffer the most. And you must make sure any investor who comes to your house makes money and is happy. For example, when we did the NASDAQ issue in 1999, February, we had a $3.6 billion book for 72 million of capital to be raised. And the bankers told us we will price it as $37. We said, no, we don't want $37. We want 10% less, $34. We fought with the bankers for half a day because they said, we never heard of this. Why are you putting at a lesser price? We said, we were listing 3%. We want the investors to make money and we want them to be happy and we want a good listing. And we got away, did a 34 and it started off at 52. And that was magic. So Rakesh is very right. When you get new investors, don't overprice, price it below what people are willing to pay, create excess demand, let them make money. And once they make money, they're very loyal to you. Never think an IPO is to cream the investors and get the biggest value. And any banker who tells you, I'm going to get the highest value, don't go with them.
Thanks, Paul.
Their fees is linked to the value, no? Their fees is linked to, I have learned one thing in life, never trust an investment banker.
No, you should trust them. I don't trust them.
Rakesh,
you have to be kind to them, Rakesh.
No, I'm saying that I don't trust them. That's fact.
Should we move on to the next one? There is
Yeah.
one important event that sort of happened last year. You know, Mohan, your company, investing company, one time, Farm Easy, actually went and acquired Thyrocare, close to around $900 million, $1 billion valuation. Is this a starting of a trend where hugely funded unlisted companies go and acquire listed companies, maybe to sort of bolster market share, maybe to get cash flows, which are probably not there? What is your thinking on this? And then,
well, that's an interesting strategy for Siddharth, because we were investors in Farm Easy. I think in the first rounds we were there, then we sold out later. Farm Easy has a very different model where the margins are very less. They have to spend a lot of money. They probably felt that it's better to buy a brick and mortar company, get the actual margins, because when you go to an IPO, everybody is going to ask them, where is the cash flow? They'll give them three quarters, 4 quarters and say, show me the cash flow. Like Rakesh says, show me the cash flow. Because that is the mindset, that is the mentality, and that is the truth. Ultimately, a company will be valued not as a multiple of sales, but as a multiple of cash flow. That's the reality. We have to accept the reality. For a limited period of time, you can grow faster. You can grow faster and spend money because, you're spending money in 3 years, what you can spend in 8 years. But after the time, you have to show cash flow. So the interesting strategy, and I think many of those companies now, which are accessing capital, will want to bulk up to justify an IPO, justify an valuation, and attract the traditional capital along with the new capital, because they don't want the market against them after they list. Now, let's say you list today, you don't make profits for 4 quarters, 5 quarters. Everybody is going to ask, how are we going to value you? We don't know. So, it's an interesting strategy.
Yeah, Mr. Jhunjhunwala.
If my father-in-law kept giving me money, I'll keep acquiring. So I think the kind of capital they're able to raise. And I think it's a good strategy, I personally.
Good strategy.
So I have a bunch of more questions too, and there are a lot of questions coming from the audience also. So I'll try to quickly run through some of the other questions. I think next couple of questions, we talked about valuations of the companies, and I just wanted to put up a slide for this discussion. We basically talk about, that the valuations of these companies are high, but when you look at, which is also works in the business, in the listed space also, price to book. And I guess if I take for digital companies, the price to capital invested, then they don't look as expensive as what is there in the, how does one decipher these 2 data points? Obviously, the listed companies and the consumer companies that put here, we talked about some of the names, Rakesh, you also talked about some of the names. They are obviously very highly profitable, cash flow generative, whereas all these companies are still investing a lot for customer acquisitions and technology and as bulking up, as Mohan talked about. I
don't think that price to book is important. I think ROC is important. Price to book means nothing. If in 1,000 crores I'm earning 1,000 crores, it's far more valuable than me investing 20,000 crores and earning 1,000 crores. So what's important is not price to book. What is important is ROE and cash flow.
Ajay, if you look at those companies on the right-hand side, you'll notice one important thing. All of them are market leaders with 50-60% market share, monopoly profits. They're making monopoly profits. Now, let me give you one instance of disruption. If you look at the margins of Hindustan Lever, operating margins before advertisement is 30%. Have you ever seen 30% operating margin for an FMCG company anywhere? It is high. Why is that? They got a fantastic distribution network in this country. It's the power of the brand, power of the trust, and the power of the distribution. And the distribution is fantastic because India is a market of distribution. Now look at Jio. Look at the Jio strategy. Jio is going to get 10 lakh, 20 lakh, 30 lakh Kirana stores. They'll get them all together. They'll aggregate all their demand, go to levers and say, hey man, here is my demand. Give me 10% off. What happens to the margin? They say no. Well, it's okay. We will still sell, but we'll get alternatives. The power of controlling the consumer and the endpoint is what is giving the power of high, PE to this. So that will get disrupted. Now that is the disruption that is going to happen there, because those valuations I don't know whether Rakesh will agree, are incredibly high for an FMCG company. This is what Walmart did to Procter & Gamble. Procter & Gamble, 40% sales was to Walmart. They went there and said, give me direct, cut the price.
Mohan, if you count the companies which have given, say, 18 to 21% return on a compounded basis, the market value of all those companies in India will not be more than 25 lakhs. And the promoters own about 10 to 12.5 lakhs out of that.
Yeah.
And like I sold, any price that I sold Titan, I regret. Right? So, these returns, these companies have given such a great return that, there is built a lot of investor loyalty and confidence. Second thing is they are very good in corporate governance. Third thing, what I feel personally is, it's not easy to dislodge a liver.
Yeah.
Or Nestle margins are higher than liver, but they take 6% royalty. Look at Maruti. No bloody no company in the world after 5%, 6% margin, royalty has got 17% operating margin. And operating margin is 23%.
Yes. Lack of competition.
So therefore, it is because of size, and I think
monopoly.
It's not. But that monopoly is an legitimate monopoly. They've created a brand.
Legitimate. Yeah, market share.
And
market share.
Their cash flows are always greater than their profits.
Yeah.
And I have one more question which I keep debating because we do a lot of work in the fintech area, Mohan. And when we are looking at Paytm, and we are also looking at now a lot of banks, Fed Mobile, which we also use significantly. You compare that whatever I can do in Paytm, I can do in Fed Mobile most of the time, most of the situations, except for a few things. But I guess evaluations, is it because it's not a digital company, it's not something which is owned by Tiger also, you will never get it, or it's only, but how does one distill it? Because the whole process of customer acquisition, customer management and transaction process is same. So because a lot of time when I meet businesses who have sort of, try to latch on, build their technology platform, catch up with the digital age, but they obviously the market doesn't recognize it. So where does this difference come in?
Fintech का कुछ समझ नहीं आता है. मेरे को लगता है फेडरल बैंक has better technology than any fintech. And in America, all fintech lending they have failed because the NPAs are so high. So you have to differentiate between a lender and a service provider, right? So reality is fintechs worldwide have not succeeded in lending. Plus, they have no deposit getting ability. And I think the banks, if you give time, even the incumbents have money and size, they can replicate. और अभी तो पेमेंट सिस्टम आया नहीं, अभी पेटीएम में भी तो 6 आने वाले हैं. रिलायंस ला रहा है, बिल्डर टाटा ला रहा है. So boss, I don't understand अपने को एक चीज मालूम है ये सब. I was not very bullish anytime at the valuation, और ये लेने का टाइम बस मिस हो गई है. Why waste time? क्यों समझो?
Ajay.
Yeah.
I would say it very differently. What I would say is, look, a traditional bank like a Federal Bank, State Bank of India have got great tech. I mean, Infi has put tech into most of the banks. 70% of the bank is great tech. But remember, the technology is the back end based upon regulations and the way the bank decides how it is going to run. Now, what does Paytm bring to the table? Paytm bring to the table the technology from the consumer side, how I want to transact my banking, how I want to do things in a big way, and how do I connect. Now, as a consumer, I'm not interested how the bank runs, what the bank systems are. I want to do my work. I just want 3 strokes on my app and I want to do it. Now, the banks are shifting to that kind of a customer-focused app work to have the ease of banking. And that's why in India, 80% of banking transactions are all electronic. The shift has happened, right? But they're all controlled by the RBI. They can't do anything innovative. It's a very different world. Now you got a Paytm, which comes and says, I'm going to get all these customers. They got 225 million customers or merchants or whatever it is. They do this kind of transactions. Everybody transacts on a Paytm, and below the Paytm is a bank. They become a layer of software on top of the bank, and they're giving access to a lot of banking services all over. And the banks are holding the baby, and they do the services, charge a fee, and get away.
Mohan, why do I need, in my office, there is an average transaction of 40 to 50 crores a day.
Yeah.
Right? I have been, I made the biggest trades of my life during the COVID. We never
Yes.
visited the bank. And we
Yes.
never did any Paytm. We used to deal with Central Bank and Citibank all on internet.
Yes.
So the question is, what is it they are bringing?
But Rakesh, you are B2B, Rakesh. This B2C, you are B2B. You know, many consumers, new consumers have come. See, today, let me tell you, you talk to a young person in Bangalore. They go to Jupiter. They're going to, you know, SMEs are going to Open. They're going to Paytm. They're going to Razorpay. They're going to all these apps and doing their banking transactions in most way. They don't even know who their bank is. And left to themselves, they'll not open a bank account. They'll not open a bank account because the idea of banking has shifted in the mind. So what is the market doing? The market is rewarding innovation in the hope of disruption, saying it's going to change. Now, over a period of time, the traditional banks will morph to becoming like fintechs because technology is going to drive them, and that's going to be there. And these fellows will want to buy a bank to get the assets and liabilities and become a traditional bank. So what is happening today is, here is the challenger. The challenger wants the customers. They get all the customers, they change their habits, they use technology. And after they do that, they need the assets, liabilities, they work with the bank and get other lenders. And then they buy a bank and then they merge and do that. For example, Revolut. If you look at Revolut in UK, they're giving all kind of transactions, $335 million of fees, worth $35 billion. And that bank in Korea, $2 trillion for an IPO.
Kakao Bank. So, Mr.
Mohan, all of them are powered by Federal Bank. Just as a data point, Jupiter and all is Federal Bank.
What is that?
Jupiter is powered by Federal Bank.
No, I know, Shyam. You are very innovative, Shyam. I wish you'll take a stake in Jupiter. You'll take a stake in all those companies and make more money than possibly you'll do otherwise.
Rakesh will kill me if I do anything like that. I have to be careful.
No, ask him for his permission. He'll give you money. Don't worry. He'll put money into Federal to invest in all that.
Interesting observation. Sir,
I just put money in Federal Bank yesterday. I bought 50 lakh shares yesterday.
Disclosure karna hai.
Give them some 500 crores to invest in innovation, Rakesh.
Mr. Pai, this is a question for you specifically. You know, we saw two events that have happened over the last 1 year. DBS, which is known for its DigiBank, acquired LVB, right, Lakshmi Vilas Bank. We saw a combination of, Centrum and Bharat Pay acquiring PMC Cooperative Bank. So it looks that the traffic is flowing the other way. So how do you sort of react to this?
See, once they got customers, once they all got the customers, they got the payment, they realized this is not giving them revenues because they're doing it free. You know, on UPI, everything is free. Where are you going to make money? See, like Rakesh also says, end of the day, you got to make profits. You got to do cash. You can't use capital to subsidize your consumers infinitely. Somewhere you got to use capital, subsidize customers to acquire customers. Then you got to make money out of that. And if you're not in a position to make money, what do? You go buy a traditional bank and then put it together and hope, because the technology at the front end and the consumers you got, you can grow the traditional bank much faster, reduce the cost of intermediation and make a lot of money. I think that's the strategy that's going to happen all over.
So, Mohan, I have a little bit of, I don't recollect whether, I don't remember whether recollect with, I met you first time when, I saw you make a presentation in that Merrill Institutional Investor Conference in Agra. And you mesmerized the audience with the way you presented your numbers, the predictability margins of Infosys. You also talked about it, the whole Infosys journey. And, obviously you also said that a lot of companies who get listed also get, boxed in with the thinking that the large street, which you just talked about, they have to look at profitability, look at cash flows. But given your advocacy of innovation, disruption, and looking at saying that more companies need to do more of it and not look for immediate cash flow, always one curious question comes in because, at one level, Mohan, if I look at your professional career, the way you created the predictability, including that, Infosys was, you set a discipline that second quarter of, as moment the quarter ends, the second week your result will get announced. So market also knows when your result will come almost like a clock. and plus they also know the consistency with you give, which obviously made, I believe, also the bedrock for a lot of investors to come into the stock. You know, first time institutional investors, overseas investors came in.
Let your question be shorter than the answers here. I said, let your question be shorter than the answer.
Sure, sir. So I just wanted to say, Mohan, that if you were to, given your current thought process, how would you build Infosys differently? What would be the disruption, or what would be the innovation you would follow?
Now, what I would do, see, Infosys came up in a very different era where there was no capital. It is difficult to innovation in India. And, they fought the battle, they won the battle. And today we have $170 billion of software exports from India. 60% of the world's outsourcing comes to India. Of the top 10 software service companies by market value, 5 are Indian. Of the top 5, 3 are Indian. Of the 2.8 million employees in the top 10, 2 million are Indians. We dominate the market. And that's the model. Now, that model is like the commercial banks model with certainty, with annuity, because our customers demand certainty. They want, regular projects. They want delivery on time. They don't want to take risk. So we are not an investment banker. We are like a commercial bank with certainty. All right, that's a different model. Now, what I will tell Infi is, I will tell Infi, look, create $1 billion fund outside Infi, invest in all these upstarts and all the innovation globally, which will help you get access to technology, to disruption, and do well. Recently, one of our companies called Darwin Box. Darwin Box is a startup that we invested in 3 years ago. They have come top in Gartner against SAP, against Oracle. An Indian B2B SaaS HR company is better than Oracle, is better than SAP in the world. It's a small startup company from India, $20 million, 20 million revenues. Now, can Infi build that? Infi cannot build that, because once you become a large company, you cannot innovate. No large company can innovate. It's very difficult for them to innovate. Apple did it, yes, at different stages, but a service company cannot innovate. I'll tell them, start a fund, do it separately outside the system. And if you find them good enough and they come up, use them to expand your business, because you are in a different business. That I would say. So I wouldn't say that, Vishal Sikka came and tried to make Infi into a product company. It failed. It cannot work.
Interesting one. I guess there are a lot of questions from the audience now. One question which I think the audience wants to understand is that what is the view on real estate?
I want to compliment Mohan that forget the market cap and the valuation, but Infosys has really set standards in corporate governance and speed of reporting and investor communication. And he played also a very important role in that. I must congratulate him.
Thank you, Rakesh.
Mohan, I lie only once when I tell my wife the number of drinks I
had. Thank you, Rakesh. Rakesh, I must tell you this, Rakesh. For us in Infosys, we were a small company. We are not a big company. We are not the Tatas. We have no unlimited capital. We are all middle-class people who never had money. For us, our biggest dream, Rakesh, was whatever we do, the world should respect us. We want to be the most respected company. We may not be the biggest. We may not be the most, but we have to be respected. And respect only comes when you're honest, you're transparent, you have integrity, you put the community before yourself, and you stand up for everybody. And in the betterment of community lies your betterment. So we want to respect. We achieved that in a big way. And we're very grateful to all of you for supporting us.
Having 5 partners in Infosys, but publicly there has been no mention of any dispute, any disagreement. Nothing. Which also is remarkable. It's like a HUF, an Hindu undivided family.
Murthy is a remarkable leader, and he told me when he started Infosys, he had an agreement amongst everybody what they would do in case there was a dispute and how to resolve that, and he did it. One of them left much before 92. But that is remarkable. There'll be no Infosys again in this country. Everything, for example, will there be a Reliance again in this country? I don't know. I don't think there'll be a Reliance again in this country. There'll not be an Infosys again in this country. They all happen because circumstances, a group of people come together, there is magic. And the magic wanes over time and it becomes an institution, then it becomes an annuity.
But I have a prediction to make, Mohan.
Yeah.
The distance between Tata's and any other finance industrial group in India is going to be at least 50% after 5 years.
50%.
I think Tata's profit will be 1.5 lakh crores a year.
Yeah.
80-90,000 the TCS cover.
Yeah. I mean, TCS is a great company. Annuity, growth every year, building. Look at the institution.
Extraordinary man.
Chandra is an extraordinary man. Chandra is an unbelievable. I know in 2008, when the financial crisis happened, Chandra traveled the world and got more business than anything else. He's a remarkable man. 21 days a month he used to travel. He used to go out. I mean, today if TCS dominates Infosys dominated then, TCS dominates Infosys because of Chandra. Remarkable leader. Remarkable.
And you know one thing, one of his CEOs told me, when you make a presentation to him, first thing you provide is cash flow. What is the cash flow you want in the quarter? Yeah, that's what he sees. Second thing he sees is, what is the EBITDA? What is the capital expenditure? And then he sees the profit.
That's good. He's cleaned up the group.
So the question from audience is that they wanted your views on real estate.
My views. I have no views.
No,
I have no understanding of real estate. Sorry. I have no understanding. Ask Rakesh.
No, if India is, I see 10% growth. Right? And I don't see interest rates in India going 1 or 2% higher than what they are today. But today's State Bank is giving you 6 to 6.5% housing loan. I don't think this is going above 7.5. So I mean, and if cities expand, and boss, if I have to work from home all day, I'll get divorced. No, because see, for everybody, there is something very social in work also.
Yeah.
अब समझा ना, तो मेरे को नहीं लगता है कि more than 5-10% of people will ultimately work from home. I have a KPO. We have about 4,500 employees. We asked them. Only about 500 said they want to work from home.
So Viraj, you had a couple of questions. Can you take over?
Sure. My question was for Mohan. Mohan, if you look at fintechs in India, apart from broking, generally do not tend to be profitable. Whereas in US, you have lending companies or even fintech payment gateways tend to be far more profitable. How do you see this space evolve? Do you see them becoming profitable? How do you see the path for them going forward?
Well, let me say this. Fintech in India is very recent, maybe 5 years, whereas the US has been maybe 10, 15 years. And the US, the markets are much more profitable than India. Remember, their fees and all are much, much higher in India. And the fintechs in India, and because of government policy, have taken the route of not charging any fees and using capital to subsidize consumers in the hope of getting more. And the UPI as a public good, not a private entity, has demolished the model.
India won a gold at the Olympics.
What is that?
India has won a gold at the Olympics.
Oh, really? Which one?
Mohandas Pai wins India's first medal in weightlifting.
My God.
Wow.
Gold.
And as Ajit said, this panel is setting things out.
Gold. Fantastic. So my view is fintech is very, very, very new. There are a large number of payment companies. I think they'll all merge and become smaller because there's no space beyond a point. The banks are becoming efficient in payments. Please understand. The banks are not staying still. The banks are still got the majority of customers. They do the majority of transactions and they got very good technology, right? They got great technology at low cost. So they're in the payment space. Many of them are getting their act together. Federal Bank, IDFC First, they're all new age banks getting the act together. HDFC banks have done remarkably well. State Bank has got Yono, which is a fantastic app. I mean, State Bank, 200 years old, is dancing like a millennial, right? Beginning to dance like a millennial. And they're all doing well. So we're going to see this convergence come in. So I think maybe if all the fintech, 4 or 5 will do well. But like Shyam said, they may morph into a new age bank. Because now, after the Korean model, every one of them will say, hey man, I want to be a digital bank. So get a bank at the end. In the front, you're digital. Call it a digital bank, attract capital, make money. And then maybe somebody will buy them out.
So from tomorrow, Federal Bank is Federal Digital Bank.
Announce that, Rakesh.
Sir, my last question is for Rakesh. Rakesh, you have been a big votary of steel in last 1 year or so. Even today, if you look at the valuation of some of the old economy asset heavy industries, they are far below their mean, which they used to trade in 2001 to 10. Do you see large growth or large valuation re-rating continue to happen in some of these stocks going forward?
Yeah, I want to make something very simple, very, very clear to you and give you a value of an example. This quarter's EBITDA of Ultratech Cement was 3,300 crores.
Right.
I say full year 15,000 crores. His valuation is 2,15,000 crores.
Right.
Disco's EBITDA this year, according to me, would be between 70 and 80,000 crores. So say 75,000. Now he has 5 times the EBITDA, right? 70% of the valuation. And it is my personal opinion, that is a kind of undervaluation.
Right.
And in my personal opinion, driven by the fact of environmental concern, new steel plants in the blast furnace route, except in India, are not going to come up anywhere in the world. Japan is closing blast furnaces. Korea has banned new ones. Europe में तो आता ही नहीं है, America में नहीं आएगा. So where is the steel going to come from? भाई कुछ भी तुम फिनटेक ले आओ यार, कुछ भी ले आओ, घर तो बनाओगे, ब्रिज तो बनाओगे, तो स्टील तो चाहिए ना.
Correct.
कितनी भी न्यू इकोनॉमी आ जाए, एक चीज तो सच्ची ना, ये 300 साल भी पहले घर बनाते थे, आज भी घर बनाते हैं. So the question is, I think, based on the current quarter's EBITDA, and so the kind of undervaluation that is prevalent is unbelievable. And boss, this is not Prakash Steel here, this is Tata Steel. It's from the house of Tatas. They're among the top 5 manufacturers in the world. And everybody knows one thing, that from October steel prices will go down. I don't know how and why. China produced 1 billion tons of steel last year, and they produced 570 tons in the first 6 months. And there is a declared policy that in no year will they produce steel which is more than the previous year. So the 570 million, if they come up to their policy of steel which they produced last year, right, in this quarter they will produce 430. So, boss, and nobody has invested for 10 years. And the environmental concerns are so high. For a new capacity to come is extremely difficult. 15% of all emissions in China are steel. And China imports raw material at $400 and exports steel at $700. So what is the value added for which they should, have emissions? So it's silly reasons. You should sell the metal stocks because they are the best performers. Retain the weeds and sell the roses. What kind of converted thinking analysts have? God help us. I said only time will tell. So that's why I'm extremely. I see a price of 3,000, 4,000 rupees for discount in very fast 2 years. And I reserve the right to be wrong. And I have an investment. I'm extremely interested. Please take everything with a pinch of salt. Please take advice from an investment advisor. Don't listen to me. Next.
Sure.
Similarly, zinc, copper, aluminum. Aluminum was $1,800, it's $2,500 today. So market has still not discounted the current prices of the metal. Voda, I think, in my opinion, Vedanta this year will earn a 50,000 crore EBITDA. Right? What is market cap? And is nearly nil debt. What is the market cap today? 1,90,000 crores. अरे उसका कुछ भी होएगा. Suppose Vedanta London fails, but London Vedanta assets are not failing. No? Vedanta Indian assets को क्या होएगा? It's not that the Indian company has given a $1 billion guarantee. So I think there's a highly converted view, ignored view. I think the biggest opportunity lies.
Sure. I just wanted to thank everyone on the panel. I wanted to thank Rakesh ji for sparing his time. I also wanted to thank Mohandas Pai to come on this and enlighten us. And it was an extremely scintillating and very informative session. And I look forward to seeing you probably in person next year when COVID is probably not around and have our 15th anniversary.
Hey, next year you please don't be so bearish. COVID will run away from September. Because societies will... No, I'll tell you, in England, in 48,000 cases, there are 450 deaths a day. Today, in 45,000 cases, there are 40 deaths a day.
Absolutely.
So, accepted as a flu. Yeah, I had COVID. I had COVID for 2 weeks back. Nothing.
2 weeks back.
It's a stronger. It's a stronger.
Cold.
Nothing else. I made the biggest money in my life. I told Uday Kotak, boss, this is a flu here. It's not a cancer. Society has faced greater challenges and come out. So you will have to accept that COVID case hone wale hai. But it will come out here. I have a very, sorry to delay, I have a very interesting theory. I don't know what you all think. Let us say India's population 140 crores. All of us have flu for a week in a year. Generally, 95% of us. The flu lasts for 7 days. So we have 980 crore man days of flu. 140 multiplied by 7. You divide that by 365. So 25 lakh Indians have flu every day. And if it lasts for a week, statistics, 3,75,000 add and 3,75,000 remove. So this देश में 25 लाख जन को flu होता है and 0.10 is also fatality rate of flu also. Was it something? They blown it out of all proportion. And this bloody dead bodies, this God help us. They are the people who are making Indians so pessimistic. You know, my daughter came to me, she's asking, Daddy, मेरे को एक ऐसा paper या magazine या social media में, where there is some hope, there is brightness, instead of all this pessimism.
Read Better India. There's a portal called Better India. The Better India.
So, anyway, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Ajay, can I make a closing remark? Ajay, can I make a closing remark?
Yes, Mohan, please.
Folks, I want to make a closing remarks. India is undergoing the biggest tech disruption in our history. Young people are creating the future of India. I'm sure Rakesh agrees on that issue too. Great hope, great new companies are coming. Look at this sector, invest in this sector at the right price, whatever you think is value, but allocate capital to this sector and participate in India's growth. We should not become legacy. We should always have a leg into the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
मोहन मैंने अपना पैसा भी नहीं इन्वेस्ट किया मैंने गांव से लेके भी किया So the biggest expense in life Kotak Mahindra Citibank उनका interest bills
Thanks Rakesh.
Thanks everyone. Thanks for the participating. I hope we get a good session today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you Rakesh. Thank you folks. Bye-bye. All the best. Best wishes for your 15th year, 16th year. Thank you.
Yes, Mohan. Thanks.
Bye.